WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. Thank you for tuning to WVTC Radio Detroit and the Community Bell Show with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner Edna Bell. Stay tuned for insightful information Detroiters will find valuable. Text a friend and tell them to watch with you for news you can use. And now, your host, Edna Bell.
Monday at 4 o'clock, so it must be the Community Bell Show. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so happy to see you all as well. Life is good. It's a little cloudy in Detroit, but that's all right. We're here and we can make it sunshine just by talking. I am so glad to have all of you with us today. We have something very, very special that I'm going to introduce today, and you're going to just love it. Many of you have heard this young man on the show before. His name is Dwight Harris. And guess what? From now on, every second Monday is going to be Dwight Harris. And he's going to talk about all of the things he's involved in. He's going to have some people come on that you're going to love to meet. You're going to get such wonderful information about helping folks who we need to help. people who have been down in their luck. They've been incarcerated. They are out. They're trying to service the community. They're trying to get better, but also about what he's doing with young people in our community, helping some of those young folks so that they don't get into the justice system, so they become productive citizens. And we are just so very, very excited to have Dwight Harris with us. Dwight, are you there?
I'm there. I'm here.
There you are. Hello, Dwight.
How you doing?
Welcome.
How
So
you
every second Monday, you will see at 4 o'clock now, Mr. Dwight Harris and his show. And I told Dwight to decide what's the name of the show going to be? What are you going to call it? What did you do, Dwight? What did you decide on?
So what I did ask a whole bunch of people, like, what should I name the show? I wanted to know, like, what did people think about the things that I talk about, the topics, how I talk about them, and what name would be parallel to what I do on the show. And so it was two different names, but I like the camera check show because with the camera check, everything that we do, we must take a camera check. A lot of times we don't take a camera check. We don't look at things the way we should. I believe that we need to look at things objectively every time we look at something. I think we need to look at the reality at it, and we need to look at the facts. When we're able to look at the objective reality and the facts, that's the camera check. A lot of times things come in between that camera check, the reality, making an irrational decision to making a rational decision. And those emotions that fall in, in between that is the problem that we have in our community socially. And it's the emotion and the ego and the pride, all those things getting in the way from us doing our civic duty and keeping in the standards of being Americans in this country.
Okay, so the camera check that's
The
what's
camera
going to
check.
be Dwight Harris and the camera check. All
It's the
right.
camera check show.
All right, love it. The camera check. And you're going to be bringing people on and talking about all of those times when we're about to take the picture and we said, oh, check the camera.
Yeah, we gotta look at it. It's
Before
like
you
what
do
we
what
do,
you
we gonna take a camera check. We're gonna look at it. We're not just gonna believe. We're not just gonna just go with what anybody say. We have the wherewithal to look at things just like anybody else. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's just how you listen, how you hear things. One of the things that you say is that people need to read. I'm starting to understand what you mean when you say our people don't know how to read. Like they could read the letters, but the comprehension of what it is they're reading, we're not able to apply those things because something is in the way. Coming from where I come from and looking at the things, the way that I look at it, I learned in the box. I like to tell that. That's a story in itself. And to be able to see things the way I see coming from there and my studies, I want to be able to bring other people on the show to be able to talk about the issues because there's a variety of wide range of perspectives about what it is we're going through, especially today with our children and society.
Absolutely. And when you mentioned, you heard me talk about people need to read, and you hear me talk about that all the time. And sometimes people see the words,
Yes,
but they're not putting them together. They're not
yes,
reading what they're really saying to us. And
yes,
helping young people do that is paramount to
yes,
all of what we do, all of what we say. We've got to help people really read and understand what they're reading.
yes. I
And
agree.
and so I'm just a camera check. I love it.
It's the camera
I
check.
love it.
We got it. We got to take a camera check though.
I love
You
it.
know that.
Camera check. So what have you got for us today, Mr.
So,
Harris?
so
I-
today I want to talk about the state of our youth. I think that's one of the things that's we're dealing with, not just here in Detroit, but all around the country. Some of the things, the conversations that I believe we should have, is more coming from the community, more grassrooted, to really understand what it is we need to do. A lot of times we, as a community, we never do the things we should do in the community. We always depended on municipalities, some agencies to take care of our own problems. I believe most of the men and women on here today, these conversations that we're going to have, we can really dig into the depth of what's really going on with our men and women, the youth. These people are experienced. I believe that we are experts in it because we lived it. that we are reforming. People always say, have you reformed? No, we are reforming. We are learning how to uh, uh, integrate into this society coming from where we come from. I really believe the verbal prowesses of a lot of men. Sorry, but I believe that the verbal prowesses and what it is that need to be done, I think people need to hear that. Like hearing me, I believe there's so many other people that can, when you hear them, you will hear them in a whole different way. I think we'll see issues and want to deal with issues in a whole different way. I believe that my work is intrinsic, meaning it's different. Like I spent so many years in prison, but I want people to understand how we dealt with violence in prison. Like you got to remember that was a whole nother world. That the people that y'all held accountable out here came to prison with us. We want people to understand how we were civilized. What civilized me? I'm that child that we're looking at. Like a lot of people don't see that. So I want people to be able to really, these conversations we're going to have can really dig into the depth of it. And I know from this station, we will be able to really reach people and they can hear us and we can really sit down and have some dialogue about what it is we need to do.
I love it. Well, your show, go for it.
Okay. So I'm not for sure how many people we got on here. I know I got, oh, there we go. There we go. So I'm glad you put him on first. This is Demetrius. I call him Meech Grizzly. I met him some time ago. I want to say a couple months ago. And I went to Persian High School for the Peace Day. And when I got there, I seen him and a lot of the other gentlemen greeting the children that was coming to school that morning. And we was greeting them with peace and we had all white on. And so he has a program similar that aligns to the issues and the things that we need done in the community. I really believe that there's a lot of illusions when it comes to the ideology of our youth and what they're following. People are misleading our youth when it comes to not mentorship, but our rap, the industry, our entertainers and things like that. People that our children listen to haven't took a responsibility upon themselves in this society. I believe that Meech, who's very influential in the community, as you hear, he will co-host and my shows with me as we progress. I believe that his verbal prowess is really like I'm 54 years old. I'm probably 2 years him, right? Although I believe his verbal prowess is really apply today and what we're dealing with our children. I really believe Meech has the capability to really reach a big majority of children in our community. And that we need his voice, we need him, we need his body really to change it. But I really want people to meet him and understand where we're coming from. It's an inclusive platform, meaning that it's different. You will hear things different, how we deal with it. But however, we do respect municipality and we respect both sides. One of the things I see with a lot of leaders, they don't even know the difference in sides, where we at and how we represent our community, whether we're from community or you working with the accountability side. Where on this platform, you find a young guy that's willing to walk on the accountability side. That's hard and continue to be solid and stand strong in this community. We're looking for solid leaders, real solid leaders. A lot of times we take away from that with a lot of the yip yap or all the parades and what it is we doing. Where Meech and them been on the ground, met him on the ground. I want to talk about the state of our youth today. He's one of our first guests. I do want to continue to add more, I guess, in, but that's Meech Grizzly. He might want to introduce himself as Dimitri, but that's my partner. You'll always see me with him, man. I want you to meet him. I want people to meet him, and we plan on doing a lot of different engagements. But this is my art. This is my mentor, him.
Hi, Demetrius. How are you?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad you are one of the first guests to be on Dwight's new show, Camera Check.
Thank you. I appreciate I really do appreciate the invite. And I thank you guys a lot.
Well, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, give us so I'm gonna go ahead and host, man. So
Yeah.
I want you to kind of talk to us about I want to talk about the state of our youth. As we go, I want people to understand that we will introduce people more. I know they want to know more about some of the guys. You can always send comments um, and ask for us to have whatever type of show you want us to have. Let us know. We would come back and do part twos or part threes of shows if we don't get a lot of the content out. But what I want to talk about today is the state of our youth. You may not be able to go all the way, but I want you to give a brief synopsis, your thoughts and ideas about it, and then we'll go to the next guest, and then we'll get into this podcast, this thought about what it is, what we could do about the state of our youth. I think we've been having this conversation for a while. It's a real big topic. I really want you to be kind of different, kind of how we talk about it, and what makes sense in terms of dealing with our youth. I want you to give some of the experiences that you've had with our youth, such as some of the things you've done where the guys call you, you was at the gas station. People need to hear that. People need to hear that. And Demetrius.
Okay. Well, my name is Demetrius Fitz, or a lot of people call me Meech or Meech Grizzly. I did 7 years in the penitentiary. I've been home approximately about 7 to 8 months. I'm big with the community. I'm big with the youth. Growing up, I seen how the community operate. I always been an influential type of person. A lot of people always follow me, even when I was young, even when I did time in when I was incarcerated. And me coming home, my biggest platform is basically to try to save the youth, because I had lost a lot of friends when I got locked up in prison. A lot of the friends that I had that disappeared, I never knew where they went. So when I ended up getting locked up, I found out that's where they had been at 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. And I say, hey, man, this where you been at all this time? I've been here, bro. You know, I caught a case when I was in middle school. I had ended up getting locked up. So I always, when I was in prison, I always had told myself, I always had a big heart and I always was good at helping people. So I told myself my biggest thing is, and then even in being incarcerated, the things that goes on in prison is unbearable. It's unthinkable. Like when y'all out, when families is out here, they really don't know. You know, they watch these shows and everything, and they think that that's what's going on. That's not. And like I told a group of young men the other day, is that prison is worse than the streets. You can't run in prison. You have to face a lot of things mentally with yourself. You get to find out who you are, and you can't run from death. People do die in prison on the daily. People do get assaulted on the daily. People do get sexually assaulted, stabbed up. When they have police brutality out here, they get caught. And there they don't. Officers in there get away with beating inmates almost on a day. They spit in your trays. They do anything that they can. So my biggest thing was I had to stop a lot of people from going into that type of environment. And I know for a fact that it's kind of hard to change the youth. So when I was in prison, I was the guy that they called to the warden's office to stop a lot of incidents from happening. So I told myself, if I can stop some grown men from stabbing each other or committing murders or doing anything they ain't supposed to be doing, because I had that type of following leadership, I knew that I could come home and do it with the youth. So me coming home, I had seen a lot of the things going on with the youth, and the biggest thing is they need a lot of these young men and the young women, they don't have no leadership. And then they got the wrong people leading them. So I came home and I said to myself, I said, I have to come out with a way to guide them. And I'm still their peer. A lot of these young guys, I'm still their peer. So they kind of listen to me. So it's been a lot of incidents since I've been home that I have saved a lot of kids. I done took kids to school, took kids to enroll them to go to school. A lot of guys that I deal with that had came home from prison, they have a big following with the youth. And they always come and say, hey, man, these guys acting out of line. We need to get them in line. So when I go to these schools and I speak to these children, and the biggest thing is this: when you're dealing with people that's going through something, they want to talk to someone that been through what they've been through. And when I grew grew up as a youth when they had motivational speakers come to the school. I was a kid too, so I understood exactly how these young men feel. I don't want to talk to nobody that ain't been through what I've been through. How could you? That's like you telling me right now and say, hey, don't go to prison, such. You been there before? No. So what you talking to me about it for then? Don't tell me not to go somewhere, don't do something. They wanna feel what's going on. They want to understand what's going on. So when I go talk to these kids, I got the whole game for them. You know, they can't say, oh, you ain't never, I've been there. You ain't never been in the streets. I got a history. Look it up. Call somebody. Ask about me. So once you get their attention and say, hey, they feel comfortable. They feel like, hey, you one of ours. And that's just what life, period. You hang around people that you are alike. So when you dealing with these youth, they want to talk and feel, they want to talk to somebody that's understanding because they hurting inside. Deep down inside, they want to say, hey, I want to talk to somebody that knows what's going on. I want to talk to somebody that feels what's going on. And that's how you break the barrier of that wall that they have built up. So it's been so many incidents where I get so many phone calls from these youth, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this. And they want to, and they need to understand what their purpose is of being alive. You got these schools. That's where the devil goes hunting at. And I told a lot of people a lot of things that I learned like my mother never taught me. My mama never taught me how to gang bang, shoot, dice, fight, none of that. I learned that in school. And this is where the youth is mostly learning. So that's why we go out and hunt these schools, motivational speak at the schools. We trying our hardest to get into the schools to say, hey, let's come in here 3 days out the week, doing lunch periods or doing class transitions, because they'll come talk to us. They people want to talk to people. I'm always constantly say, I say people always want to talk to people that they can relate to. As I talk to so many teachers, they say, I tell these kids every day, stop this, stop this. You're going to end up here. And the kids respond, say, how you know? You ain't from the hood. You can't say that to me because guess what? I'm from the hood. So then at that time, then that's when I can say, hey, what's next then? Oh, well, where you from? What you been into? Oh, you know, doggy, you know, such and such, you know this person, you know this person. I say, yeah, I know everybody. And then that's when you can slowly but surely gravitate to find out what's going on. Because a lot of things wrong with the youth is they don't want to go home because of the things that's going on at home. The social media is just blocking the platform of everything that's going on in the world today. The violence is so high right now. I was used to growing up fighting, which, you know, violence is violence. It shouldn't happen. But I grew up fighting. These young men is out here killing each other left and right. We have to stop that. It's been multiple times I have saved so many youth since I've been home from committing crimes. I have got phone calls in the middle of the night, man. I feel like doing something like this, bro. I need help to do this. You have young men that got to take care of their household, and they're 15, 16, 17 years old. I've got a phone call. Hey, man, can you cash out me some money? My mom needs some tissue. My mom needs some diapers for her daughter. So I have to take care of that because if I feel like I say, hey, if I don't do this, what if I wake up in the morning, that same dude just robbed some old lady at the gas station and shot her in the head? Then I feel like that falls on me. You have these women out here having so many kids at one time that these young men and these young women are forced to grow up to be adults and not be children at that time. So my biggest platform is to basically do everything in our power that we can to save the youth. And as I always say, because it's like with committing a crime. If I pick you up and go shoot somebody in the head, you in a car, you might as well shot him in the head too. Because you was with me. And you going to jail and you're going to serve time. So I always tell myself, to the people that got the power, the resources, and the access, if you don't help us to help these youth, you might as well be going out there doing the same thing. You might as well be doing the same thing. Because if you have the avenues that we need and the tools that we need to change the world and change the youth, and you don't, you might as well be doing it too. What do you have those resources for? So we're doing everything in our power to chase and hunt down the resources that we need to take care of these youth, because they are the ones that's going to be responsible for the future. They sponges. They trying to soak up everything in the world, these phones, and we have to get on the internet platform because that's what they listening to on a daily. I just was on FaceTime the other day, which was Friday. Do y'all know that the kids had an Xbox One in the middle of the classroom playing a shooting game on a teacher's projector in the school? And I told the young man that I was FaceTime, I say, bro, 3 of the kids had their feet on the desk, playing with their iPhone. 2 of the kids had 2 controllers. They playing a video game in the school. And I asked my mans, I say, this is what's going on in the classroom? Y'all playing Call of Duty and y'all supposed to be learning something? And the teacher's so afraid to tell him what not to do because he think he gonna get shot in the head maybe. Or get something gonna may happen to him. You can't tell the youth nothing, you can't save them. So what our thing is, we have to get more people like us. They say, okay, well, you guys committed y'all crime, y'all did what y'all did, y'all returning citizens. Well, we can't have y'all on these type of platforms, but every time something happened in the community, y'all call us. Y'all calling us. Y'all calling criminals that y'all saying that it's so many people that's locked in right now that I know for a fact that can change the world, and they out here doing it right now today. They out here doing it right now today. Soon as something happened in the community, 90% of the people that show up to these incidents is guys that was incarcerated. We have stories to tell. We have real life things going on because every child is going to always say, how you know? What are you going to say to them when they ask you how you know? I don't know. I heard it from somebody else. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear something from somebody. I want to know how, because growing up as a child, I'm going to say this. They'd say, hey, don't do this. But you never told me why not to do it. If you say, hey, don't touch that stove, you're going to get burnt. They don't know what getting burnt is. And then what happens? The child ends up touching the stove. As soon as they get burnt, I bet you they won't touch that stove no more. You're not telling me properly and say, hey, young man, if you carry that gun and you keep carrying it, this is what's going to happen. This is how this works. They don't say that. Just say stop carrying the gun. So I'm going to keep carrying it. You ain't telling me why not to do it. You're not telling me and say, hey, if you keep hanging with these guys, the parents always say, don't, but you don't say why don't. Well, you have to get these young men out here why, reasons why. Me and Dwight have went to so many events, and when we get to talking about why don't do something and the after effect of it, that's when we catch their attention. That's when they start listening. Then after the fact, that's when they come shake our hand and say, man, I want to change my life. Give me your phone number. I want to do this. I want to do this different, because now they know the repercussions and the consequences that comes with what they doing.
All right. I love it. And we need to have more of them hear your story and hear from you why not and what the good reason is. Dwight, you've got another young man in the waiting room, Dion Ridgenell.
Yeah, let him come in. So Dion is he's an activist in the community. He did time as well. As you see, I like you hear the verbal prowesses, right? It makes sense. It makes sense. Like when I say inclusionary, I mean that type of platform. I mean a platform where it can be heard, like you can hear it, not just from an educated standpoint, but from the experiment of what to actually experience what it is we talking about. So when I think about our children, I think about the people that been through it. I think about the people that can have the mental capacity to talk about it after going through what they've been through. Dion Riggins is activist in the community, and the same thing. And the question to you, bro, it's from the perspective, but it's from you as an activist, doing time, been home, working, driving trucks, all the things you've been doing, and the state of these men. I want you to kind of talk about, so we did time, right? One of the things I want people to understand, where did the men go, the boys go that killed people in the 80s? They went to prison. And who was they around? So by the time I had 15 years in, kids that came to prison, who did they flock up under? Who did they come to? They came to us. So we can look at it with this perspective because we the ones that had to deal with the kids. No, the older ones that dealt with us. The older ones, the ones that taught us how to read in prison. The officers, I didn't go to school or nothing in prison. I learned in the hole. So this perspective from where we come from, we can look at our kids from a whole different light. They're not real killers, because once they come through Jackson, all that's gone. They changed the whole thing. So I look at it like, How do we deal with them from looking from that way? Because I know that you ain't ready for this. I got a slew of stories of killers and robbers and everybody in the streets that when they came to prison, no, true story. I can tell it. Anybody know me, they know. We know that it's a whole nother thing. So to be able to see these guys that act this way in the street and they killing, we want to be able to tell, like, not that part, but the other part on the other side and look at it today. And what is your thoughts about that, bro?
Mike. Good afternoon, people. My name is Brother D. Rigonell, and I'm an advocate. I'm a husband. I'm a father. To some of the stuff that Dwight was just mentioning on, I can relate to that because at one time I was a juvenile delinquent, and as a juvenile delinquent, I didn't listen to my parents like I thought I should have, and I didn't respect authority. That's one thing that I didn't respect. I didn't like people telling me what to do and how to do it and when I need to do it, and that caused a conflict with me and my parents. I grew up in a single home without my father, and but I had a father. Later on down the line, my father, we built a relationship. But before we built that relationship, my father was doing what he wanted to do, and my mother had the burden of taking care of 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl by herself. And once I reached a certain age, I think it was the age of 12 years old, and that was in the early, probably the late 70s. I was about 12 years old, and I really started doing mischief things. I was skipping school. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd back in the day. I used to go to schools I went to. When they started. I lived in Herman Gardens, but then they started busing us to the suburbs. So when I got bused to the suburb schools that was in Dearborn, my mentality of going to that school was way different from my mentality of going to school in the Herman Gardens. Everybody in the Herman Gardens knew everybody. It was like it was the project. So when we went to the school, everybody, my cousins, we knew everybody in the Herman Gardens. But when they started busing us to different schools, with me being a juvenile delinquent, I would lash out in school, do certain things just to get attention. A lot of children do that today. They lash out, do things just to get attention. And the kind of attention that I was getting wasn't the right kind of attention. When I was going to school, if you got out of hand, you was able to, you get before they call your mother, they give you an option. I'm gonna give you, let me hit you with this paddle 3 times, and you can go back to class, or I'll call your mother and let her deal with it. So I used to take the paddles because I didn't want to involve my mother in none of that. So, but eventually my mother had to come up to the school because one day I got into an altercation at school, and I took a knife to school. And now, back in the days, people was carrying knives. We wasn't that much carrying guns. If you had a gun, you really kept it undercover and pulled it out when you needed to use it. But jumping up to now, these individuals are going to school with guns, and not just going to school with guns, they going out walking the streets with guns. But back to me, I wind up getting kicked out of all the public schools, and I went to this school called Lister. It was an all-boys school.
I went to Lister.
When I got to Lister, it was more mischief. That's all it was. It was a bunch of us there. We did what we wanted to do. The principals, the school teachers, they could take the counselors. They tried to control us, but I just wasn't listening. So as a delinquent, I still was delinquent. So at the age of 14, I got committed to the state. The crimes that I committed, I did a numerous amount of crimes as a juvenile. Some of the things that I did, I regret that I did them to this day. But some of the things that I did do and got caught for was way less of time that I would do as if I was, got caught for the crimes that I didn't get caught for. So I wound up getting committed to the state at the age of 14 years old. And once I got committed to the state, I was still a delinquent. You know, I didn't take authority well. I just couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't take authority well. And when I went after I went to Lister and I finished Lister, I got out of there because I wanted to go to high school. I wound up going to this school called Winterhalter. And when I went to Winterhalter was like close to Dexter, you know. So I met a lot of so-called YBIs and a lot of people that was affiliated with that gang. So I wasn't in that gang, but I hung around those type of individuals. And it was just more mischief, just showing me more mischief as a delinquent. So to bring us up to date, you know, I got committed to the state at the age of 14, and once I got committed to the state, my mother signed me over to the state because she could no longer control my actions. So she felt that I needed to be in a group home or a setting where I could learn how to respect authority. So I wound up going to Boys Republic. And once I got in Boys Republic, I learned, you know, it was different for me there because that's why I learned. Once you get locked up, you learn different things on your own when you by yourself. You know, even though I was 14 years old, I had to learn certain things. But being around other individuals that was doing crimes, the same crimes that I was doing, some of them brothers was on their way to the men prison. You know what I'm saying? To the big house. You know what I'm saying? So once that came all to fruition, and I got out of the I wound up getting out of the boys' home because my uncle from New York, he became my legal guardian. So I wound up leaving Detroit and going to New York, and I stayed in New York to the late 90s. You know, I didn't stay in Michigan no more, but I heard a lot about what Michigan was going on in Michigan. After my uncle became my legal guardian, they told me that I had 24 hours to get out of the state, and if I didn't leave the state of Michigan, being my uncle being my legal guardian, if I didn't do that if I got found guilty of any other crime, that I was gonna go to prison. So I left and I went to New York.
And so when you look at our children now and our youth now, like you've been on the streets, you've been out here, you've been doing work with a lot of the organizations, and what do you think about them now?
Now our children,
in contrast to you, that's a good perspective.
Okay, our children today are being misled. Our children today are being misled, and it's not that we can overcome them from being misled. Is the reason why our children act out the way they do is because they have no respect for authority, for one, like I used to didn't have. For two, they don't know who they are. They don't really know what they want to do in life besides the things that they are doing to get accepted by their peers. So with them doing the things that they do now compared to what we did back in the day, it's the same. It's the same thing, you know, because the music that they listen to, you know what I'm saying? You know, I was just listening to NWA the other day, and I was working out with my son, and I'm like, dang, my son, he just said they've been talking like this for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Easy-E talking about shooting up this and shooting up that. You know what I'm saying? So that influences children. You know what I'm saying? When like it's some of the music. I'm not gonna get in particular to the music that can drive you to going out here doing things mimicking what the music say, because that's how we feel when we listening to that music. You know what I'm saying? If we ride in our car and we pump ourselves up, that's what pump us up. And now it's to the fact that they even got, you know, they making drugs. You know what I'm saying? They making drugs possible for us to get. You know what I'm saying? When we was coming up, we'll get a nickel bag of this, a nickel bag of that. You know what I'm saying? And if some people wouldn't sell you no weed because they'd say, man, your mother, your father ain't about to, you ain't supposed to be doing that. But nowadays, anybody can get it. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can get that. You know what I'm saying? And they smoking weed at 12 years old, 11 years old, 10 years old, you know, and they adding stuff to it. So that alters their mind as well. So now they really getting into that character of the music that they listening to.
Yes.
So they just being misled. You know what I'm saying? And not to say all children are like that, but you know, you get some children that don't have no choice but to be what they are because it stems from their parents as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Their parents is presenting this to them in front of them at a young age. You know, we need to stop doing stuff in front of our children.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Stop talking to our children a certain way. If you're talking to your children at 5 years old to 10 years old and you calling them this and you calling them that, that's the vocabulary that they have now. So they're going to go out and they're going to go to school and they're going to call the teacher that. You know what I'm saying? Are they going to go out? Are they going to reflect what they've been taught?
Right.
So it's just a process of
and
reaching a child's mind.
So my thought about our children comes from me as a child. I've been home 11 years. One of the things I want people to understand that if you do time in prison, it's like being in this big old capsule with a bunch of stuff going on every day. You can't imagine what goes on up under this bubble, right? But in it was I was a kid when I went in there. I was 18 years old. The reason I reflect, a lot of people say, well, why you always talk about that? Because that's where I grew up at. That's where all the bad boys came. We created gladiator school. We learned how to fight we learned how to fend for ourselves. There were boys that came to prison that could not fight, that needed a knife when he got there. He had to find something that would give him the strength to grab it to protect himself, right? Mm-hmm. When I talk about our children, I look on that perspective because that's where I got it at. So when I come back right here to where the reality of the thing, it's like, what do we do? What do I see in the last 11 years since I've been home? We'll do a camera check, right? Mm-hmm. I worked for Ceasefire. Nobody knew that. I worked for Ceasefire as a social worker from CAS, Children Aid Society. I was at the table when we talked about it with Ike McKinnon and them about what are we doing with it after whoever left office or whatever. So I also worked Detroit Eastern District Initiative with Alice Stafford and them, with Detroit Crime Commission. I was right at the table in creating a program that makes sense over the 48205 area and the 48224 area. We had Ceasefire, and then we had Detroit Eastern District Initiative. So what did I see? At this time, if the divided crime rate was crazy. So as an agency and a strategist from a social work and a case manager standpoint, doing all the studying the Krasnick system, looking at all the monthly reports where we understand where all the shots was fired up, we actually engaged the neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even paid attention to. This is for everybody. People that know what I'm talking about. And other people, I'm trying to be descriptive about where our issues at. So, and what I seen, I canvassed the whole 48205 and 48224 area. All the information that 9th Precinct and the 5th have from over there is what we did years ago. Those engagements were so powerful. But one of the things I seen, because the work was so intrinsic, I set up engagement. I set up resource tables on Kelly and Morose, where they was killing and robbing at that month. They had more killings and robbings at that gas station ever. So the intrinsic work. And so when I sat on the corner, me and my people, the ones that had the heart to do it, a lot of people say, I'm not going over there where they killed 5 people and robbed the man and dragged him through the alley. They say they not, even the police, trained soldiers, Detroit soldiers, they would go. So we created that. We went, we put a banner up, and we addressed everybody that came through there at the corners with canned goods and stuff, and we got all the contacts. With that, I was able to get to the households and meet the kids. The focus was on adults, though. Come to find out, the kids was living on their own. Even though they was in the household, they wasn't eating sufficient. They didn't have sufficient clothing, shoes, socks. They didn't know how to keep their hygiene up. They didn't brush their teeth every day. There was no order or structure in the household. The mother worked. She might have been abused by the dude. Got all kind of dudes coming in out the house. What I realized, because I was gone as a kid, when I left, there was grandmamas, big mamas, people that we could depend on. There ain't no big mamas no more. Nobody you can go down the street and say, I need something to eat, big mom. We don't have the people on the streets that can say, no matter what, make sure these kids eat. Everybody taking what they got and just pulling it to themselves. The kids see that. Let me give you an example. During the pandemic, we lost our children.
Yeah.
Our children are already suffering from trauma, from all those things I was just talking about. I've been dealing with kids for 9 years now. When I stopped work, when they laid us off at the agency, I still had those kids. I've knocked at all the doors and asked them for gyms years ago. Everybody remember that. Nobody gave me the gym. They say you got to pay $100. And I know $100. However, when I look at the kids, the children are raising themselves.
Absolutely.
Yes, they are animals. I was an animal. I was raised by my great grandmother, though. I only act that way when I left the house. The parents are peering. The parents are actually peering with the children. They want to be their friend. The children are smarter than the mothers.
Can't be the friends. Can't be their friends. You got to be the parent.
The children are smarter. The children, this is what I'm giving you this thing, what I see. The children are smarter than the parents. I don't think people even looked at it like that.
Absolutely.
So what that means is that you can't tell me these kids got their own mind. Internet has raised our children. Maybe some people say it ain't raised mine, but internet has raised our children.
I'm telling you.
And so the kids that don't have order, the kids don't have that archy of growth from the bottom going up, can never reach the highest attained of spirituality in them. Because they are not eating, they don't have shelter, they don't have clothing. They are not warm, they don't feel sufficient. So that's not an excuse though, right?
No,
let me go to the personal face-to-face conversation.
We need to help them. We need to help them. It's time, and that's part of our job is to start helping them. So this is Dwight Harris, everybody. Dwight Harris, camera check. This is camera check. Dwight will be back with us on the second Monday in January. Dwight will be back hosting his show. Camera check. 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. Everybody be with us. Dwight, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your first show. How do you feel about your first show?
I love it. I commentary. I really want to get more people in and involved.
And we can do that.
Yes.
We can do that. I'm so glad that first show went great. You had great guests to talk about what's needed in the community. We look forward to it. Happy holiday to everybody. Happy holiday. We'll see you next Tuesday, or rather next Monday. And Dwight will see you the second Monday of every month.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holiday, everybody. Everybody be blessed. Take care.
Hey, are you in need of a jingle, a commercial, or have you considered a podcast for your business or ministry? If so, let WVTC Radio Detroit be your choice. And guess what? Location is not a problem. We can pick you up and broadcast you from anywhere. For more information, please go to our website at WVTCDetroit.com or drop us an email at WVTCRadioDetroit@gmail.com. We're waiting to hear from you.
Opportunity is knocking at your door. It's WVTC Detroit. And if you're reliable, dependable, a fast learner, and you're ready to work in a fast-paced environment, we have something just for you. Part-time board operator, and we will train. You must have your own transportation and be flexible. Only serious inquiries, please. Send your email to WVTCDetroitLWhitfield@gmail.com. We are waiting to hear from you.
Thank you for listening to Community Bell with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner Edna Bell. This broadcast was brought to you by WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, tell a friend to tune in. We'll see you next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern to the Community Bell Show, right here on WVTC Radio Detroit. You're listening to WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit, and we're flowing in the Spirit.